Okay, so think about this. Every time you unlock your phone, you're looking at something. But what if that something is actually you? Today, we're stepping through what's being called the algorithmic mirror. So let me ask you something. The next time you unlock your phone and that feed just starts scrolling, what are you really looking at? Is it just your friends, some news, a couple of funny videos, or is it something else entirely?
You know, most of us think of our screen as a kind of window, right? A window that lets us peek out onto the world, onto what's happening in culture, into the lives of people we know.
But here's the thing. What if it's not a window at all? What if what you're actually staring into is a brand new kind of mirror? And well, here's the really unsettling part. This mirror is looking right back at you.
All right, let's really break this down. A normal, everyday mirror, it's passive, right? It just shows you what's there. But the algorithmic mirror is active. It doesn't just show you who you are in this exact moment, it shows you a version of who it predicts you're going to become. And that tiny shift from a simple reflection to an active prediction, that changes absolutely everything.
You know, to really get how this new digital mirror works, we actually have to take a step back in time. We need to look at the original mirror, that simple piece of glass that first taught us how to see ourselves in the first place.
And that takes us to this really fascinating idea from psychoanalysis called Lacan's mirror stage. It's all about that incredible moment when a baby sees the reflection for the very first time and has this little spark of realization, hey, that's me. It's the beginning of seeing themselves as a complete person.
I mean, just think about it. Before that moment, a baby's experience is just this kind of jumble of uncoordinated feelings and movements. But the image they see in the mirror, it's the total opposite. It's whole. It's coordinated, it's coherent, and that unified image becomes this sort of ideal they can identify with. So here's the absolute key idea, the one thing you need to remember for all this to make sense. Our very first sense of me is formed by identifying with something external, an image. We see a version of ourselves out there, and then we start the process of becoming it. Just keep that idea locked in your head.
Okay, so fast forward to today. That exact same process is happening all over again. But this time, the mirror isn't made of glass, it's digital. We're now living in the algorithmic mirror stage, where our sense of self is being shaped by that feed on our screens.
You know, it used to be that we saw ourselves reflected in the eyes of our friends, our family, our community. But today, more and more, we're seeing ourselves reflected through the cold, calculating eyes of an algorithm.
And look, don't get it twisted. This is not a passive reflection. The algorithm is always working. It's constantly probing your interests, predicting what you'll do next, and actively curating what you see. And why? To create a version of you that's predictable and, for the platform, constantly engaged.
So how exactly does this shaping happen? Well, it's this incredibly powerful feedback loop, a cycle that can find one tiny, hidden part of your personality and just harden it until it feels like your entire identity. This process has this super technical name, recursive identity ossification. But forget that. Let's just break it down into 3 really simple steps. First, there's projection. The algorithm picks up on a tiny spark in you, maybe a fleeting interest, a slight anxiety, and it starts showing you more and more of it. Then comes internalization. You see all this content and you start to think, wow, this must be a really big part of who I am. And finally, there's ossification, which is just a fancy word for hardening. You actually start acting like this new version of yourself, which just makes that identity even more solid, more rigid.
And this quote right here, this is the mental switch. This is the moment it all clicks into place in our heads. We stop thinking, the algorithm thinks I'll like this. Instead, it becomes a pure statement of identity. I'm seeing this because this is who I am.
So what's the fallout from all this? Well, it's huge. We basically start to outsource our own self-discovery. We stop looking inward for answers, and we start letting a machine tell us not just what we might like, but who we are, and even how we should feel. And there's actually a term for this. It's called externalized introspection. Sounds complicated, but all it really means is what happens when you start trusting a machine's data analysis of your mood more than your own gut feeling. Just think about that for a second. We're not just looking in a mirror anymore, we're asking the machine to tell us what we see there.
And I bet you've felt this yourself, right? Your smartwatch buzzes, your wellness app says your stress levels are high. Do you suddenly feel more stressed? Do you just accept that data as the truth, even if you felt perfectly fine a second ago?
This points to something that feels subtle but is actually a massive shift. It's a surrender of our emotional agency. We're essentially giving a machine permission to define our own internal reality for us.
Okay, so let's zoom all the way out now, because this isn't just about what's happening to you or me. When you have millions and millions of people all living inside their own perfectly personalized algorithmic mirrors, the consequences for society as a whole are, well, they're staggering. First off, that common ground we all need to function as a society, it just starts to evaporate. We're no longer part of a shared culture, but millions of what one writer calls micro masses of one, each of us in our own little feedback loop. And this creates something called identity inertia. It just becomes so much harder to change and to grow when your entire digital world only wants to reinforce the person you've always been. So that data double, the algorithm's model of you, it stops being a helpful reflection and, well, it becomes a cage. It's like a prison built from the bricks of your own past clicks and likes, and it makes it harder and harder to ever break out and become someone new.
Look, if you take away just one single idea from all of this, let it be this one. The screen becomes a mirror that shapes the face it reflects. It's not just passively showing you who you are. It is actively, constantly molding you into the person it needs you to be.
So, the next time you find yourself unlocking your phone and just mindlessly scrolling, I want you to ask yourself this question. If your digital reflection is being shaped for you, then who is really in control of who you're becoming?